My parents abandoned me while I was in labor after my husband died. What I revealed to them years later changed everything. Can you imagine losing everything in a single, brutal night? Your husband, ripped from your life without warning. Your world, shattered. Then, amidst the agonizing pain of going into labor 6 weeks early, you call the one person who should be there, your own mother, only to hear her calmly say, "Hawaii can't wait." That call, it wasn't just a phone call. It was a line drawn in the sand, a moment that fundamentally changed everything I thought I knew about family, about love, and about myself. Because 4 years later, when they finally came crawling back, desperate for my help, it didn't surprise me one bit. It just proved exactly who they had always been. Before I dive deeper into that absolute gut punch of a story, if you find yourself connecting with this, please take a second to hit that like button and maybe subscribe. But truly, only if it resonates. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there for you right now. Now, let me take you back. Because to really understand the profound cost of that phone call, you need to understand the life I had before. The beautiful, imperfect life Sean and I were building. It was early 2021. We were living in this small, second-floor apartment on Indianola Avenue in Columbus, Ohio. Nothing fancy, trust me. It was like $1,150 a month, one bedroom, a kitchen so narrow we couldn't both stand in it at the same time without bumping butts. And the living room window? It overlooked a parking lot. But it was ours. It was home. Sean was a firefighter at Station 19. He worked those grueling 24-hour shifts, leaving Sunday evening, coming back Monday morning. He'd smell like smoke and sweat, and I'd pretend to complain about it while secretly, completely, loving the way he'd collapse on the couch within 10 minutes of walking through the door.
Me?
I was a physical therapist at a private clinic, Renewal Physical Therapy. I'd only graduated with my DPT 3 years earlier. I was still building my career, still drowning in student loan debt, still trying to figure out what kind of therapist I wanted to be. But I was happy. We were happy. I was 34 weeks pregnant, due in late April. We'd already painted the second bedroom, the one we jokingly called the office, but everyone knew was destined to be the nursery. Pale gray walls. Sean, bless his heart, had found a second-hand crib on Facebook Marketplace for $75 and spent an entire Saturday sanding and repainting it himself. "This kid's going to have the best mom," he said one night, rubbing my belly. "I just hope I can keep up." That was Sean. Always deflecting, always putting me first. He was the first person who ever made me feel like I wasn't too much. Like my inherent need to care for people, to show up, to fix things, it wasn't a flaw.
He saw it as a gift.
But he also saw something I couldn't, something I was blind to, the way my own family used that gift. Let me tell you a little about my family. My parents, Howard and Patricia Knowles, lived in Worthington, maybe 25 minutes north of Columbus. My dad was a retired plant supervisor, 66 at the time, solid pension, golf every Saturday. My mom? A homemaker who never worked outside the house, but somehow always managed to act like she was the busiest person in any room. And then there was Garrett, my older brother, 5 years ahead of me, 31 in 2021. Garrett was what therapists call the golden child, though I wouldn't learn that term until much, much later. He was a sales manager at Westbrook Auto Group, made good money, drove a leased Audi, had a wife named Amanda, and 2 adorable kids, Braden and Chloe. On paper, Garrett was everything a firstborn son should be. But here's the thing about Garrett. He was never around. He missed holidays, skipped family dinners, called maybe once a month if I was lucky. When my grandmother was dying, he showed up for a grand total of 40 minutes. When my mother had her hip replacement, he visited 3 times in 18 months.
3 times.
And yet, somehow, Garrett was still the favorite. Garrett's under a lot of pressure at work, my mother would say, as if his job was harder than anyone else's. Garrett doesn't have the same kind of schedule you do, my father would add. He shows love in different ways. I used to believe that. I really did. I used to think, maybe I'm being unfair. Maybe he really is trying. Maybe I'm just too sensitive. But Sean?
Sean didn't buy it.
One night in January 2021, we were driving back from my parents' house. I'd spent the entire day helping my mother reorganize her garage. Garrett? Oh, he was busy, of course. Sean was quiet for a while, just driving. Then he said something I will never forget. They count on you because you always show up, Evelyn. One day you'll need them to show up too. And we'll see. I didn't respond. Because deep down, in that quiet, aching part of my soul, I already knew he was right. I just wasn't ready to admit it. Now, let me tell you about those 18 months. The ones my mother seemed to conveniently forget when she told me Hawaii couldn't wait. It was September 2018. My mother had hip replacement surgery at Riverside Methodist Hospital. It was supposed to be routine. 6 to 8 weeks of recovery, physical therapy 3 times a week, a walker for a month, then a cane, then nothing. Back to normal. But something went wrong. My mother didn't bounce back the way the doctors expected. Part of it was physical, a minor infection that slowed her healing. But a big part was psychological. She became terrified. Afraid to walk, afraid to be alone, terrified of falling. And because Garrett was too busy, and my father was, frankly, useless with anything medical, the job fell to me. I had just graduated, just started working. I'd been at Renewal Physical Therapy for exactly 3 months when my mother called, crying, asking me to come stay with her. Just for a few weeks, she said, until I'm steady again. So I moved into my parents' house in Worthington. I slept on the couch in the living room because it was closest to her bedroom. I woke up at 5:30 every single morning to help her into the bathroom. I changed her surgical bandages. I helped her shower when she was too afraid to stand under the water alone. I drove her to PT 3 times a week, sitting in the waiting room, doing charting for my own patients on my laptop. I completely rearranged my life, my entire schedule, to be available. And I did this for 18 months. Not 6 weeks. 18 months. For the first 6 months, it was mostly physical, wound care, mobility training, making sure she didn't fall. But after she was physically healed, something else took over. My mother just didn't want to be alone. She was anxious. All the time. She called me every night, even after I finally moved back to my own apartment. Can you come over?
Can you stay?
I don't feel right. I didn't know how to say no. So I cut my hours at work. Went from 40 hours a week to 28. That's $1,400 a month in lost income just gone. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself I was being a good daughter. I even missed my OCS exam. That's the Orthopedic Clinical Specialist certification. The credential that would have put me on track for senior roles, higher pay, more respect in my field. The exam was in April 2019 and I couldn't study for it. I didn't have the time. I was too busy driving to Worthington and back, managing my mother's anxiety, managing my own crushing guilt. And here's what hurts the most. Sean helped. My husband, the man who worked 24-hour shifts running into burning buildings, still found time to drive my mother to PT when I couldn't. 9 times I counted. He never complained, never asked for recognition. My mother loved Sean. She used to bake him cookies. She told him once, "You're a good man. Evelyn's lucky." He just smiled and said, "I'm the lucky one." That was February 2020. 13 months later, she wouldn't come to his funeral. You want to know what those 18 months look like in receipts? I have 94 text messages from my mother during that time. I saved them all. Not because I wanted to prove anything. I didn't know I'd ever need to. I saved them because I thought maybe one day I'd look back and feel proud of what I'd done. 91 of those messages are requests. Can you take me to PT Thursday? Can you bring the heating pad? Can you stay tonight? I'm scared to shower alone. Can you pick up my prescription on your way? 3 of them are thank yous. 3 in 18 months. Meanwhile, Garrett visited 3 times. 3 visits, 2 hours each, roughly. He brought flowers once and a spa gift card another time. My mother talked about that gift card for a week. "Garrett's so thoughtful," she'd say. I changed her bandages. He sent a gift card. But somehow he was the good child. That was the pattern. That was my whole life, laid bare. And I didn't see it clearly until the night I lost Sean. Sunday, March 14th, 2021. I still remember the weather. Cold, but not freezing. Overcast. The kind of day where you think spring might finally come, and then it just doesn't. Sean left for his shift at 6:15 in the evening. He kissed my forehead, then bent down and kissed my belly. "I'll be back Monday morning," he said.
Rest.
"Don't clean the whole apartment again." I laughed. "No promises." He smiled. He was wearing his Columbus Fire Department t-shirt under his jacket, navy blue. I'd washed it the day before. He walked out the door at 6:17. That was the last time I saw him alive. At 8:45 p.m., my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number. I almost didn't answer, but some primal instinct, told me to pick up. "Mrs. Brennan?" The voice was male, steady, but with an edge I couldn't place. "This is Captain Rodriguez from Station 19. There's been an accident. You need to come to Grant Medical Center now." I don't remember hanging up. I don't remember grabbing my keys. I don't remember driving. I just remember walking into the emergency department and seeing Captain Rodriguez standing near the entrance, waiting for me. His face, it told me everything before his mouth did. A truck had run a red light at the intersection of Morris Road and Carl Road. Sean was driving to a structure fire at Easton Town Center. He didn't have time to react. The impact was on the driver's side. He was pronounced dead at 8:31 p.m. 45 minutes before I got the call. They took me to a small room. White walls. A clock that ticked too loud, echoing in the silence of my shock. A doctor came in and said words I don't remember. Then someone asked if I could identify the body. I said yes.
I don't know why.
I think I needed to see him, needed to believe it, needed it to be real in the worst possible way. They brought me to a different room. Colder. Brighter. And there he was. Sean Patrick Brennan. 32 years old. Firefighter. Husband. Almost a father.
Gone.
I touched his hand. It was cool, not cold yet. I wanted to climb onto the table and hold him the way I used to hold him on the couch after his long shifts. I wanted to tell him I was sorry for all the times I complained about the apartment being too small. I wanted to tell him about the baby, about how I'd been thinking of names, about how I imagined him teaching our child to ride a bike. But I couldn't say anything. I just stood there. And then something twisted inside me. At first, I thought it was grief. A cramp.
Shock.
But it wasn't. It was a contraction. I signed the papers confirming his identity at 9:58 p.m. My signature was shaky. It didn't even look like mine. They handed me a plastic bag with his belongings, his wallet, his wedding ring, his t-shirt, the navy blue one I'd washed the day before. I held the bag against my chest in the back of the ambulance as they drove me to Riverside Methodist. Another contraction hit. Then another. I was 34 weeks. 6 weeks early. My body had decided it couldn't wait. Or maybe it was just grief, cracking me open from the inside. I arrived at labor and delivery at 1:52 a.m. My water had broken in the ambulance. They wheeled me into room 4 and started hooking me up to monitors. A nurse asked me questions.
Name. Due date.
Emergency contact. Emergency contact. I gave them my parents' number. At 2:07 a.m., between contractions that ripped through me, I called my mother. She answered on the 4th ring. "Evelyn, it's 2 in the morning." "Mom." My voice cracked, raw with grief and pain. "Sean's gone. He was in an accident. He's dead, and I'm in labor. I'm at the hospital. I need you." There was a pause. I heard something in the background, an announcement, the kind you hear at airports. "Oh, honey." Her voice was strange, distant. That's terrible. But we're at the airport with Garrett, his promotion trip." I didn't understand what. "Hawaii," she finished. "We've had it planned for months. He just made regional director. We couldn't cancel now." Another contraction hit. I gripped the bed rail, my knuckles white.
Mom, please.
"I'm alone. Sean is dead. I'm about to have the baby. I need you." And then she said it. The sentence I will never, ever forget. "Hawaii can't wait, honey. But you're strong. You'll be fine. Call us when the baby comes." She hung up. I stared at the phone. I didn't call back. Didn't call my father. Didn't call Garrett. I just lay there in that cold room under fluorescent lights and felt something inside me go quiet. Not broken. Quiet. A few minutes later, a nurse came in. "Barbara." She was older, maybe late 50s, with kind eyes. She checked my "for" and glanced at my face. "Is your family on the way, sweetheart?" I shook my head.
No.
"It's just me." She didn't ask why. She didn't push. She just pulled up a chair, sat down beside me, and took my hand.
Then I'll stay, she said.
And she did. For the next 4 hours, a stranger held my hand while I brought my son into the world. Not my mother, not my father, not my brother. A woman named Barbara. That was the moment I began to truly understand. Family isn't blood. Family is who shows up. Declan Sean Brennan was born at 6:23 a.m. on March 15, 2021. 5 pounds, 9 ounces. 18 inches long. Premature, but breathing, crying, alive. They put him on my chest for maybe 30 seconds before they whisked him away to the NICU. He was too small. His lungs needed support. They told me not to worry, but how could I not? I lay in that recovery room for hours, alone, staring at the ceiling. The plastic bag with Sean's belongings was on the chair next to me. His wedding ring was still inside. I hadn't touched it since they gave it to me. I kept thinking I should call someone. But who? My parents were somewhere over the Pacific Ocean by now. My brother was with them. My husband was in the morgue. And my son was in a plastic box 3 floors away, fighting to breathe. I had never felt so alone in my entire life. Declan stayed in the NICU for 11 days. Every morning, I woke up in a hospital bed, then later in my empty apartment, and drove back to see him. I'd sit beside his isolette for hours, my hand pressed against the plastic, watching his tiny chest rise and fall. Nurse Barbara came to check on me twice during her shifts. She wasn't assigned to the NICU, but she came anyway. She brought me coffee once. Didn't say much. Just sat with me. "You don't have to be strong all the time," she said one afternoon. "Not here. Not with me." I cried for the first time since Sean died. Just wept. During those 11 days, my parents stayed in Hawaii. 7 days of vacation. 0 phone calls. 1 text message from my mother. Sent on March 18th, 3 days after I gave birth alone. "Hope you're doing okay. Maui is beautiful." With a little sun emoji. I read that message sitting in the NICU, my hand on my son's incubator, wearing the same clothes I'd worn the day before because I hadn't had time to do laundry. I screenshotted it.
I don't know why.
Instinct, maybe. Or maybe some deep part of me knew I'd need proof one day. Proof that I wasn't being dramatic. Proof that this really happened. I saved that screenshot, and I kept saving things. Text messages, call logs, dates. I wasn't planning anything. I just needed to remember. Sean's funeral was held on March 22nd at Shaw Davis Funeral Home. Fire Station 19 came in full dress uniform. 28 firefighters. Engine 19 carried the casket, draped in a flag. Chief Morrison gave the eulogy. Sean Brennan wasn't just a firefighter, he said. He was a brother, a husband, and soon a father. He ran toward danger so others could run away. And he never, not once, complained. The church was full. Nearly 180 people. Neighbors. Coworkers. Friends I hadn't seen in years. Patients from my clinic who'd heard the news. The woman who ran the coffee shop near Station 19. Sean's high school football coach. Everyone came. Except my family. My parents were still in Hawaii when the service started. Garrett was with them. Their flight home wasn't until that night. I found out later that Garrett's return flight had been delayed by 6 hours. A mechanical issue. They could have booked a different flight. There were 3 other options that day. I checked months later when I finally had the energy to look. They could have made it, but they didn't try. After the service, I stood by the casket and signed the guest book myself. Then I flipped through the pages. 89 signatures. Coworkers, neighbors, church members. The owner of the convenience store near our apartment. Not one nulls. I closed the book and walked away. The first call from my mother came 2 days after the funeral. I didn't answer. She called again 2 days later. Didn't answer that one either. On the 3rd call, she left a voicemail. "Evelyn, why aren't you picking up? We tried to be there. Hawaii was planned for months, you know that. Don't be dramatic." Don't be dramatic. My husband was dead. I gave birth alone. My newborn son had spent 11 days in the NICU, and I was being dramatic. A few days later, she sent a text. Fine, be that way. That was March 28th, 2021. I didn't respond. Not because I wanted to punish her. I just didn't have the energy to explain. I couldn't find the words to describe what it felt like to lie in a delivery room at 2 a.m., body breaking open, heart already broken, calling your mother for help, and hearing, Hawaii can't wait. I didn't have the strength to make her understand. And somewhere in that silence, I realized I shouldn't have to. So I stopped. I didn't block their numbers. I didn't send an angry message. I just stopped responding, stopped calling, stopped trying. And I started saving everything. Every text, every voicemail, every email. I didn't know what I was saving them for. I just knew that one day someone might try to tell me I was wrong, that I misremembered, that I was being too sensitive or dramatic. And when that day came, I wanted proof. The next 4 years were the hardest and simultaneously the most transformative of my life. The first few months were pure survival. Just getting through the day, waking up, feeding Declan, changing him, trying not to fall apart when I saw Sean's boots by the door or smelled his shampoo in the bathroom cabinet. Sean had life insurance through the fire department. $250,000 plus a line-of-duty death benefit of $100,000 more. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough. Enough to pay off my student loans. Enough to make a down payment on a small house. Enough to give me time. In August 2021, I moved into a 3-bedroom house on Oakland Park Avenue in Clintonville. A quiet neighborhood, a big oak tree in the front yard, a backyard where Declan could eventually learn to walk. The house cost $285,000. I paid 20% down and got a fixed mortgage I could actually afford. My neighbor to the left was a 62-year-old widow named Louise. She came over on moving day with a plate of brownies and offered to babysit whenever I needed. You remind me of myself, she said. 30 years ago, lost my husband young too. She didn't ask questions, didn't pry. She just showed up. That became a theme. The fire department didn't forget me. Chief Morrison, Sean's boss, called once a month to check in. He came to Declan's first birthday party and his second. By the time Declan was 3, he was calling Chief Morrison Uncle Mike. Nurse Barber kept in touch. We had coffee once a month. She'd watch me across the table with those kind, knowing eyes and ask how I was really doing. She became Auntie Barb to Declan. My coworker Meredith became my closest friend. She was the one I called at 2 a.m. when I couldn't sleep. The one who brought takeout on bad days and didn't judge me for eating dinner in my pajamas at 3 p.m. And I went to therapy. Every 2 weeks, I sat in Dr. Simmons's office and unpacked everything. The grief, the anger, the guilt, the complicated tangle of emotions I felt toward my family. Dr. Simmons helped me see things clearly for the first time. You were parentified, she told me once. You were the caregiver from a young age, and when you needed care yourself, they couldn't give it because they never learned you were allowed to need. It took years to absorb that, but slowly I started to believe it. In November 2023, I took the OCS exam. The one I'd missed in 2019 because I was too busy taking care of my mother. I passed. When I got the results, I sat in my car outside the testing center and cried. Not just because I was proud, though I was, but because I thought about all the time I'd lost, the opportunities I'd sacrificed, the years I gave to people who didn't show up for me when I needed them most. I wasn't bitter anymore. I was just clear. I went home and hugged Declan.
He was 2.5.
He had Sean's eyes and my stubbornness. He didn't understand why Mommy was crying, so he patted my face and said, "It's okay, Mama."
It was.
One night, when Declan was 3, he asked about grandparents. We were reading a picture book about a boy visiting his grandmother's farm, and he looked up at me with those big, innocent eyes. "Mommy, do I have grandparents?" I paused. I'd been dreading this question. Some people are family by blood, I said carefully. Some people are family by choice. We have a lot of the second kind. He thought about this. Is Auntie Barb family by choice? Yes, baby. She is. And Uncle Mike? Him too. He nodded, satisfied. I like our family, he said. I pulled him close. Me too. For years and 7 months. That's how long the silence lasted. Then, in October 2025, my mother sent an email. Subject line: "We need to talk." I stared at it in my inbox for 2 days before I finally opened it. When I did, I read it 3 times. "Evelyn," it began, "Garrett is going through a very hard time. Your father's health isn't good. He had a stent put in August. I'm exhausted. We need you to come home. Family takes care of family, Mom." The very first sentence was about Garrett. Not "how are you?" Not "we're sorry." Not "we've missed you." Just
Garrett.
I did some research. I wasn't proud of it, but I looked. Garrett's wife, Amanda, had posted on Facebook a few months earlier something vague about starting over and thanking everyone who supported her and the kids. Divorce. I dug deeper. Garrett had been caught having an affair with a coworker. Amanda had filed for divorce in June. By August, Garrett had lost his job, moved back into my parents' house, and was fighting for partial custody of his 2 kids. The golden boy had fallen. And suddenly, my family remembered they had another child. Over the next 3 weeks, the messages multiplied. Voicemails from my mother. "Evelyn, please call back. Garrett needs his sister. You're the only one he'll listen to." A text from my father. "Your mother is breaking down. Is this what you want?" And then, for the first time in over 4 years, an email from Garrett himself. "Hey, Evelyn. I know we haven't talked, but I'm going through something really hard right now. I lost Amanda. I barely get to see my kids. I don't know what to do. I need my sister, please." I read his email twice. He didn't mention Sean. Didn't mention Declan. Didn't say sorry for anything. Just "I need." I counted the messages over those 3 weeks. 14 missed calls, 9 texts for emails. Not one apology. And in all those messages, Declan was mentioned exactly once. My mother wrote, "I'm sure Declan would love to meet his grandparents." As if she hadn't had 4 years to meet him. As if she hadn't been posting photos from Hawaii while I was in the NICU. As if my son was a card she could play now that she needed something. I talked to Dr. Simmons before I made any decision. "What do you want from this meeting?" she asked. I thought about it. Closure. I want to say what I never got to say. And I want to close the door properly. Not slam it. Not leave it cracked. Close it. She nodded. "What if they apologize?" "Then I'll know they're finally seeing me." I paused. "But I won't go back to who I was." That night, I called Meredith. "I'm going to meet them," I said. "You sure?"
"No."
"But I need to do this. Not for them. For me." She was quiet for a moment. "What are you going to bring?" "Everything." I prepared. I printed screenshots.
Call logs.
Emails. The text my mother sent from Maui. The photo of the funeral guest book with 89 signatures. The spreadsheet from the meal train that showed 47 families had brought food. None of them nulls. I put it all in a manila folder. I didn't know if I'd use it, but I wanted it there, just in case they tried to rewrite history. I chose a public place. Fox in the Snow, a coffee shop in Clintonville. Neutral ground. Close to home. Saturday, November 15th, 2025. 10 a.m. Before I left, I looked at the folder on my kitchen counter, and I remembered what Sean had said in the car that night almost 5 years ago. "One day you'll need them to show up too, and we'll see." I whispered it back to him, wherever he was. Asterisk I saw, Sean. I saw. Asterisk they were already there when I arrived. My mother was sitting closest to the window. She wore a cream-colored sweater and gold earrings. My father was next to her, looking older than I remembered, more gray, more tired. And Garrett was across from them. He'd lost weight. His eyes had dark circles. He looked like someone who hadn't slept well in months. My mother stood when she saw me. "Evelyn, you look good." "Thank you." I didn't hug her. "Let's sit." We sat. No one said anything for a moment. Then my mother started. "We've been trying to reach you for years, Evelyn. You shut us out. We didn't know what we did wrong." I didn't respond. My father leaned forward. "We're getting old. Is this how you want things to end?" With silence.
Garrett spoke for the first time.
I know I wasn't always there, but I'm here now. Doesn't that count for something? I looked at him. At all of them. They'd had their narrative. For 4 years, they'd told themselves a story. The story where I was the difficult one, the dramatic one, the one who overreacted. Now it was my turn. You're right, I said calmly. You didn't know what you did wrong. So let me show you. I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder. My mother's eyes narrowed. What is that? Proof. I opened the folder and pulled out the first sheet. October 2018, I said. You texted me. Can you take me to PT Thursday? I did. Here's the screenshot. I placed it on the table. November 2018.
Can you stay tonight?
I'm scared to shower alone. I stayed. For 18 months. Another sheet. Here's the email I sent to my supervisor asking to reduce my hours so I could take care of you. I lost $1,400 a month because I was sleeping on your couch, driving you to physical therapy, and changing your bandages 3 times a day. My mother's face was pale.
She didn't speak.
Garrett visited 3 times during those 18 months. Brought flowers once, a spa gift card once. That's it. Meanwhile, I was there every day. Sean drove you to PT 9 times when I couldn't. I paused. You remember Sean, right? My husband. The man who helped take care of you. Silence. I pulled out the next sheet. March 15th, 2021. 2:07 a.m. I texted you. I'm in labor. Sean is gone. Please come. I placed the screenshot on the table. Your reply? We're at the airport. Hawaii can't wait. My mother looked at the paper, then looked away. 3 days later, you texted me this. I placed the next screenshot down. Hope you're doing okay. Maui is beautiful. With a sun emoji. Garrett shifted in his seat. He was staring at the table. While you were posting beach photos, I continued, my voice steady. I was sitting in the NICU, watching my premature son fight to breathe. Alone. Wearing the same clothes I'd worn the day before, because I didn't have time to do laundry. I pulled out another sheet, a photo of the guest book. Sean's funeral. 89 signatures. Here's the list. I pointed. Not one nulls. Garrett mumbled something. We didn't know you needed. You didn't ask. I cut him off. You didn't come. You didn't call. I pulled out the meal train spreadsheet. 47 families brought food. Strangers. Neighbors. Sean's coworkers. Here are their names. I slid it across the table. Not one nulls. My father spoke. His voice was quiet. That was a long time ago, Evelyn. I looked at him. Trauma doesn't have an expiration date. For a moment, nobody spoke. I could hear the coffee machines behind the counter, the low hum of conversation at other tables. Normal sounds. Normal life. My mother tried again. But we're family. Family forgives. I shook my head slowly. Family shows up. You taught me exactly who your emergencies are for. She flinched. Garrett leaned forward. I'm sorry. Okay? I'm saying it now. Doesn't that count? I looked at him. My brother, the golden child. The one who was never expected to carry anything. The one who was excused at every turn. Sorry is a start, I said. But it doesn't erase what you chose. You chose a flight over your sister in labor. You chose a vacation over your brother-in-law's funeral. You chose Garrett's comfort over my survival. I let that sit. Every single time. My mother started to cry. Silent tears rolling down her cheeks. I didn't comfort her. I had spent my whole life comforting her, anticipating her needs, putting her first. And when I needed her most, she chose Hawaii. I stood up. I spent 18 months giving this family the best of my care. Sleeping on your couch, cutting my hours, missing my exam, showing up every single day. I gathered the papers and slid them back into the folder. You spent it. I looked at each of them one last time. And now you want more. Now that Garrett's falling apart and Dad's heart is giving out and Mom's exhausted. Now you remember you have another child. Now you want me to come home and fix things. I tucked the folder under my arm. But I don't have anything left for people who only remember me when they need something. I said the words I'd been holding for 4 years. I already gave this family the best of my care. You spent it. Then I walked out. Nobody followed me. I sat in my car for 5 minutes before I started the engine. My hands were shaking, not from anger, but from release. I texted Meredith. It's done. She replied within seconds. How do you feel? I thought about it. Really thought. Free. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived in my mailbox. Handwritten. 3 pages. My mother's handwriting. I read it once. It was full of explanations, justifications. I'm sorry you feel that way, but... And we didn't mean to hurt you, but... And Hawaii was important, but... No real apology. No ownership. And the last line. I hope you'll reconsider. Garrett really needs you. Still about Garrett. Even in her apology letter, Garrett. I folded the letter, put it in a drawer, and didn't respond. That Christmas, Declan and I stayed home. But we weren't alone. Auntie Barb came over on Christmas Eve with a turkey she'd roasted herself. Uncle Mike brought wine and a fire truck toy for Declan that made real siren sounds. Louise from next door brought her famous apple pie. Meredith showed up with matching pajamas for all of us, including herself. We ate too much.
We laughed.
We told stories about Sean. Declan ran around the living room making fire truck noises while the adults pretended to be exhausted and secretly loved every second. At one point, Declan tugged on my sleeve. Mommy, will we see Grandma at Christmas? I knelt down to his level. We're seeing Auntie Barb and Uncle Mike and Louise. They're our family. He scrunched his face, thinking. But they're not grandmas and grandpas. Some people are family because they're born that way, I said. And some people are family because they choose to be. The people here tonight, they chose us and we chose them. He considered this. I like our family, he said. I pulled him into a hug. Me too, baby. Me too. That night, after everyone left and Declan was asleep, I stood by the window in my living room. The street was quiet. Snow was falling. The oak tree in my front yard was bare, its branches reaching up like fingers. I thought about Sean, about the life we'd planned, the nursery we never finished, the bike he'd never teach our son to ride. And I thought about what he'd said in the car that night. Asterisk, one day you'll need them to show up, too. And we'll see. Asterisk, he was right. I saw. And what I saw set me free. I used to think caring for others was proof of love. That the more I gave, the more I mattered. That if I just showed up enough, tried hard enough, sacrificed enough, I'd finally earn my place in my family. But that's not how love works. Real love is mutual. It shows up. It doesn't keep score, but it doesn't take without asking either. It doesn't require you to empty yourself to be worthy. For 30 years, I poured myself out for people who only remembered me when they needed something. I thought that was love. It wasn't. Love is Barbara sitting beside me in that delivery room, a stranger who chose to stay. Love is Chief Morrison coming to my son's birthday parties year after year because Sean would have wanted it. Love is Louise bringing brownies on moving day and never asking for anything in return. Love is Meredith showing up with matching pajamas and terrible wine and the kind of loyalty that doesn't need a blood test to prove. That's family. Not the people who share your DNA. The people who share your life. If you're watching this and you've ever been the one who always shows up, the one who drives, who calls, who remembers, who sacrifices, who shows up only to be forgotten when you needed someone most, I see you. I know how it feels. And I hope you know you're allowed to stop. You're allowed to choose yourself. You're allowed to build a family that chooses you back. Setting boundaries isn't abandonment. It's survival. It's the first act of self-love after years of being poured out. You don't owe your presence to people who only notice your absence when they need something from you. Your worth is not measured by how much you give. It's measured by how much you're loved, for who you are, not for what you do. My name is Evelyn. I'm 30 years old. I'm a physical therapist, a widow, and a mother to the most stubborn, beautiful 4-year-old boy you've ever met. I have a family. Not the one I was born into, but the one I built. The one that showed up. The one that stayed. And I finally know what family really means. If this story resonated with you, if it reminded you of your own, please leave a comment. Not just for me, but for the next person who needs to know they're not alone. And if you've ever drawn a boundary that others call dramatic, I'd love to hear about it. Because the truth is, we're not being dramatic. We're just finally being honest. Thank you for listening.